This video is going to be on writing equations of lines or of linear functions. But there's a lot of different things that you can do to write equations of lines. However, or a lot of situations that your teacher may present to you. However, there's really only one answer that most teachers are going to want to accept, and that's the answer for an equation of a line is going to be given in slope intercept form. And maybe you already know, but that's y equals mx plus b. And so we're going to write the equation of the line given information. And so like I said, there could be lots of different ways a teacher can present information to you, but you'll have to use some reasoning skills and some logic to kind of think about what is it that I need to do in order to get y equals mx plus b as my answer. So let me break this down for you if you don't already know. M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept, and that's the place where the graph crosses the x-axis. So you'll want to look on, or excuse me, the y-axis, and you'll want to look on the graph, or recognize the point 0, comma, and then whatever the b value is. So as long as you're seeing those things, then you should be able to find, let me write intercept there, but as long as you're seeing those two things, you can write the equation of any line. The mathematical reasoning part comes into play when somebody doesn't give you those two things, but they give you other information about the line, and then you have to use that information to write the equation of the line. So let me give you two more formulas that you're going to want to remember, and hopefully you already know, but the first one is to find slope, right? So you may be given 2 points at some point, or a graph or something along those lines. And so remember that slope is the rate of change, and the way you find the rate of change is by finding the change in the y value. So y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And so you have the change in y's divided by the change in x's. So you have your slope. But then there's also this thing called point slope formula. And if you are in a chapter where you're doing this kind of stuff a lot, you might want to remember this form because it's very useful in writing the equation of a line. It's y minus y1 equals m and then parentheses x minus x1. And it actually comes from the slope formula, but what you do is you only plug in numbers for the slope and for one of the points. So x1 and y1 is the point. So those three spots are the only places that you plug in numbers, and your result is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form once you're done simplifying it. So let's put this to work a little bit. Let's see what we can end up with. All right, so here we go. Let's go with the situation where the slope of the line is 1/2 and the line passes through the point 2, 7. So taking a look at what we have and what we've been given is always a good idea to start. So we already know the slope, and so we've been told that the slope is 1/2, and we've been told that there's this point 2, 7. Now some people think that this 2, 7 is the y-intercept, but it's not. For it to be the y-intercept, the x value would have to be 0, but it's 2, so that means it's not the y-intercept. So what I encourage students to do is to set up y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And the reason I have you set that up is because this is called point slope form. You know a point, 2, 7, and you know the slope, 1/2. And if you plug those into the appropriate spots of x1, y1, and m, you'll walk away with your answer. So here we go. Y minus, and then y1 is 7. Oop, I put an equal sign. Y minus 7 equals, the slope is 1/2, then parentheses x minus 2. And then all we're going to do is distribute and then get y by itself. So distribute the 1/2. You get 1/2 x minus 1. You get y minus 7. And then we're going to add 7 to both sides so that y is alone. We're going to put it under its like term. And so our final answer would be y equals 1/2 x. And then -1 plus 7 is 6. And so there we go. We've written the equation of a line. All right. The next example that a teacher might give to you, and I'm giving you kind of 3 basic examples, but the next example that a teacher might give to you would be something of this form. Find the line that passes through -1, 4, and 3, 12. Okay, -1, 4, and 3, 12. So you may have learned in geometry that you can create a straight line between 2 points. And so as long as you have 2 points, you can find the equation of that line. And it's a 2-step process where the first step is you need to find the slope. And remember, the way we find the slope is we do m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, the change in y over the change in x. And so here we go, 12 minus 4, because those are our y values, and then divided by 3 minus, then I'm going to use parentheses, -1. So here we go, m equals, and then 12 minus 4 is 8, divided by, and then I'm running out of room, but 8 divided by, and then 3 minus a -1 becomes +1, so 4. And so what's 8 divided by 4? Your slope, m, equals 2. And we're not done because we want the equation of the line. So now that you have a slope and you have multiple points, you can use point slope form like we did on the last example. So remember, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I know you're probably thinking, which point should I use? Because you can't use both. Which point should I use? And the answer is you can use whichever point you want because they're both on the same line. So just pick a point, whichever one seems easiest to you, and then go from there. So I'm going to use negatives because most kids don't like the negative ones, so I don't want them to feel left out. So y minus 4, because the y value is 4, equals 2, and then x, and then minus a -1 would become +1. And so here we go, y minus 4 equals 2x plus 2, because we're going to distribute that. And then we're going to add the 4 over, do the opposite, to get y by itself. So y equals 2x plus 6. Alright, and there's the equation of our line. This is the answer that we're looking for. It's got a slope and a y-intercept, and we can graph it on a coordinate plane if we wanted to. Alright, last one that I'll throw at you would be just looking at a graph. It would be the very same situation. You would have yourself 2 points that you could use to find the slope, and then you can use them to find the equation of the line using point slope form. Sometimes you will be able to locate the y-intercept from a graph, and that makes your life easier because then you just have the y-intercept already and you can put that in for b, and then you can find the slope, and then you can put that in for m, and you don't have to use point slope form. But in this case, I want you to notice that you really can't tell what the y-intercept is, and so you're going to have to go through the process that we just went through. So you would find the slope. So m equals 12 minus 16 over 15 minus 5. And so the slope is negative 4 over 10. So we'll go with negative 2/5. I know this is bad. You're saying it's a fraction and it's negative, but life's going to be okay. All right, so we're going to use y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1, and we'll go from there. So y minus, let's go with 12 equals negative 2/5, and then x, and then minus 15. So this is the point I chose, 15 comma 12, and then I use the slope negative 2/5, and then we're going to distribute. So I'll have negative 2/5 x, and then two negatives when multiplied together becomes a positive, and then we multiply fractions straight across. So put that as 15 over 1, so that'd be positive 30 over 5, which is 6. And then equals y minus 12. We'll add 12 to both sides. And so our answer is y equals negative 2/5 x plus 18. There we go. All right. Have a great day.